Hey y'all, so I wanted to pop on real quick with a kind of a short message. I watched a video and I'll drop a link to it in the description. It's really short, and there's some comments that are really interesting too, actually, if you have interest in this topic. So I wanted to mention that first, and it made me start thinking about my experiences, and I wanted to share with you all one tactic that people can use that's extremely frustrating, that's essentially like a power control tactic, right, for them to remain in control. And basically what it is that it's complete denial. It's complete denial even of reality, to the degree that you don't even have a way to have a conversation about anything. And so, I'm talking about even just basic stuff. I'm not talking about like if you found something out about somebody and they want to not own up to it or something like that. I mean, that's part of it too. But I'm talking about even on a very basic level. If somebody just doesn't, for example, this is my perception, okay? It's especially true and more likely used by those people who are living a double life or trying to be very careful about not letting anything slip, okay? If they are just lying and they are very guarded anyway. So I think that what they do is they just try to stay busy. They try all these different tactics to make sure that you never even have a chance to have an in-depth conversation for anything to slip out, about whatever it is they're trying to hide from you. And so it can just be something as simple as, if you have a little bit of time together and you want to talk about something, as soon as you start into the conversation, if there's a main point that has to be agreed upon first, like a first level consensus, so that you can both build on that, like in a normal conversation. See, when you have people who don't go through this stuff, they don't understand. And you probably didn't either, and I didn't either before we went through it. But when you, just normal average people who are honest and transparent, you don't have to sit there and analyze how you're speaking with one another. It's just a natural flow, right? And so the problem is these people who are doing this, using this tactic. And I don't know that I would say that it's only for just feeding their ego and maintaining this level of power over you. That may be part of it, but I personally think there's another motivating factor, another reason that's actually functional. And so my opinion and perspective on this, based on my experience, is that the reason could be, there may be many reasons. Like I said, they don't want to, agree on main points in the conversation, even early on. Simple main points. So that the conversation cannot build and progress. It prevents that, see. A normal conversation is one where both people are really engaged, they're paying attention, and for example, you might be sharing something and the other person's nodding, or they're saying, yeah, I know what you mean, or they're restating what you said, just real short, to kind of affirm that they comprehend your point. And so you're going to find a lack of all that. And so it's very strange when you've never experienced it, okay? And then as you try to progress in the conversation, and there's this strange void happening here, and you never realize that people could withhold even things like that, because again, you're not used to having to analyze anything. You're just used to normal conversation. And so as you're going along, you start wondering if it looks like they're listening, but are they not understanding? This is very simple stuff you're talking about. And so you may have to start saying something like, you see what I'm saying? Or does that make sense? Things like that. And so it places you in a position, see, I can see how it could be, this whole tactic could be perceived as being motivated only by wanting control and a certain position in the power dynamic, right? But again, I always think there's another reason too, maybe several reasons. But as you start going through the conversation and you're getting literally no affirmations from the other person, then like I said, you might start kind of asking directly just to make sure that you're on the same page before you continue on. And whether let's just say you don't, let's just say, I'm going to give two examples, okay? Or talk about it both ways. Let's say that you don't ever ask, you just continue on assuming that they're understanding you. At the very end of it, a lot of times you'll find there's no response. It's very strange. This is something I've experienced many, many times. And so, with a certain personality type, okay? And so it's very strange to get literally zero response at all, or just a, okay, or that's interesting, or whatever, or a total change of topic. And a lot of times when this happens once or twice, you may not put a lot of weight into it. And when you start to share these things later in life, when you've gone through it a lot and you see the bigger picture in a lot of other ways, and you have found out things and things make sense and all this stuff, right? When you try to share these little instances like this with others, a lot of times people will think that you're just being overcritical and stuff like this, when you're not. It's just one tiny piece of this much larger puzzle, you know. And so again, I just encourage you to be careful who you share your journey with, especially the parts that are very unique and have a lot of weight, okay, to them, because people can wind up making you doubt yourself. And if you've been through that a lot already, you don't need to add to that, okay? Know what you know and let that be good enough. But that's kind of how the conversation can fizzle out. And this also is why you're going to find that you can't connect with some people. You literally, it's impossible. You can't. There's no depth there. And this is a big part of that. They're incapable. Or I wouldn't say incapable. I think that for some people are incapable, but I think those people, you see signs of actually trying to connect. But I say incapable in this sense because they want it to be that way. And again, I think there's a reason. But like I said, this is definitely going to lead to a lack of connection. And over time, you'll see, this being a pattern with people who are doing this stuff intentionally, right? Okay, especially if you can see them talking with other people and there's no problem. And their conversation flows better and stuff like that. Then it's kind of like, well, then why are you stepping so carefully around me? Because there's something to hide. and or they may be trying to maintain excuse me, a certain power dynamic for manipulation purposes. Okay, so let's say that you don't continue on with the conversation, that you do. I'm going to go a different way because we're doing road work here and it's awful. Let's say that you do try to get this person to agree with you on some things, some points, and it's not a normal flow of conversation. So you actually ask them, like, hey, are you following? Does it make sense? Sometimes they'll say yeah, or they'll look a little confused and kind of nod, and you're thinking, okay, I'm not real sure what's confusing or whatever, but in the end, there's still nothing there. There's nothing there. In other words, they'll just pacify you along the way, but they'll never really give you any real feedback. That can happen, even if you ask. Another thing that can play out, this is all manipulation in a conversation, okay? This is a tactic. A power play, okay? Another way this can play out is if you ask questions along the way, like, does that make sense? Or, you see what I'm saying? They can actually take you down. There's a lot of tactics here. That right there can open the door to many other tactics, such as circular conversations. And I don't really have enough time to explain that, there's a lot of other videos out there on that. It's a strange kind of thing to experience, okay? But they just take you on this ride where you can't get anywhere, a conversation. And so that's one thing they can do. But another thing they can do is they can challenge just normal, everyday kind of stuff that you're talking about, so that you'll never reach that first step of consensus to build on to have the conversation. And it's basic things. And I'm trying to think off the top of my head of an example. Let's say that you're married, as an example, and you've got a pet, okay? And you have this, I don't know, maybe it's a dog, and maybe there's some, health issues or whatever, and you're thinking, I need to sit down with my spouse and talk about, what's going on with our pet. And in real life, I don't think this would be really about a pet. I think it would be anytime you try to talk about, it could be. Sometimes it's anything. But sometimes it's anything to do with your marriage or plans or anything like that. And so, but for my example, we'll just say, you want to have a conversation about your pet. And so you sit down and you say something like, well, Fido, whatever you want to name the dog, has not been feeling good lately, right? Right there, it can start right there in the beginning. They may say yes, and then start to give pushback on the second point or third point. Very early on, there's going to be some where they act like they can't understand you, no matter however you explain it, or they take you on this ride with this, where you can't see eye to eye, and it frustrates the daylights out of you, or they'll just deny it. They'll say, well, I think he's been getting better, and you're thinking, we both sat here and watched our dog, throw up for, however many hours straight or whatever. This is not a real scenario. This is a completely made up scenario for illustration purposes. But it can be something where you're thinking, it's amazing how, I guess, brazen, like, how can you say that? It's you, that's your position. You're like, hey, what? Because they might come back right there on the first point and say, well, I think they're getting better. And so it's like complete denial of reality. Okay, complete denial. It's like if you know for a fact that a person is not colorblind, for example, and you hold up, I'm looking at my ducks here in my Jeep, and you try to say, hey, look at this green duck. Some people literally completely deny something like that obvious. It's my whole point. So it's a sticky situation, because what winds up happening is you don't realize it, but you're being conditioned to just sit back and never really have a say-so. Never assert your thoughts to be considered. Never question anything. Over time, when this is done, even though the person may literally say, I'm trying really hard to understand what you're saying, I don't know why I can't, and so you can't really point the finger or blame them, because they seem like they're genuinely trying, and they'll do this for a long time. They're very patient when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so, but it's all manipulation. And if it's someone close to you, like a family member, or I don't know, someone that really matters in your life, like a manager at your work, or a friend that you've known for, multiple decades, or your spouse, or some of your spouse's family, someone that you just can't really imagine not in your life, it's really, really, really difficult. And I think that when we believe truly in our heart of hearts, that this person means what they say, like they're trying to understand, or we really believe that they are truly confused, or whatever it is, when they take us on this long circular conversation journey, we're genuinely paying attention. And they can confuse you so much on simple topics. And I think sometimes politicians do this, but it does a number on your brain. It does an absolute number on your brain. It makes you not trust yourself. It makes you question yourself. It makes you question everybody. It makes you feel like an idiot. Like you must be seeing everything wrong, or, you know, especially if you've kind of, if you don't have a healthy social life outside of this person or this group or these people. Usually it's, you know, I only am speaking in terms of one person using these tactics, right? But a lot of times I think controlling people isolate their victims too. So if you don't have a good support network to converse with, see, that really makes you question yourself. It's always important to keep people in your life that are good, true people that genuinely care about you, so that you can remain balanced in your psyche, your mind, and your heart, and that way you don't completely lose your mind, honestly. But this kind of stuff, there's a lot I could say about it, but the point is, I don't think anybody likes arguments at all, but, well, except these people. Some people like to trigger other people. But I think that when you are, let's just take marriage as an example, but really it could be friendship or anything. If you care about a relationship you have with somebody, you're going to want to fight for it. If there's ever a point that you both come to, like a crossroads you both come to, and it's important, you know, that you both reach some level of respectful engagement, even if you disagree, you know, like figuring out, like, where do we stand on this if we disagree, and how can we work this out, or whatever. I think that making the relationship the priority is important without betraying yourself and how you feel about things. It's like, where do you find that middle ground? But there's a difference in people who want to work that out with you and people who are not even going to go there with you because they're so hard set, you know, that they won't even converse with you at all. And a lot of times it's not even on the topic at hand. It, like I said, that's the thing of it. Whatever's going on in the conversation, a lot of times it's not even about that. It's about making you doubt yourself, making sure you are experiencing ongoing conditioning that they want to get you to a place of just total passivity, if that's even a word, being passive completely within the relationship, so that they can call all the shots and they can tell you that they're going here or there, and in reality they're going over there doing something else, you know. So a lot of this is, in my opinion, related to people who are they have something to hide. They have something to hide. And maybe they also get a kick out of watching you struggle, you know, trying to figure things out and make it work. And they're pretending like they're also trying to make it work without actually making it work, without actually doing their part. I don't know. But it's just something to think about. I wanted to share with you all. This has been a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I know it was very wordy, but I hope you got something out of it. And I'll drop a link to that video that made me think of all this in the description box below. I think that hindsight really is 20/20, and I think it's important for all of us to have come out of a crazy situation where our minds have been worked. I think it's very important to reflect back as we are reminded, just to really let the understanding piece of the wisdom that we gained sink in, because that's going to help sharpen our discernment more than anything. So thanks again for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.